Hey, fam, and welcome to my review of Ready to Love, The Last Resort Reunion Part 2. I'm Stephanie Rivers. Now, it turns out that none of the couples that walked away at the end of the season of Ready to Love are together anymore. You guessed it, Khalfani and Adriana are broken up, and that makes Denise laugh. So what was revealed was that as soon as they walked off the set, Khalfani went home to a note on his door. And the note was from a previous girlfriend who wanted for Khalfani to give her another chance. So because Khalfani already had a relationship with this previous girlfriend, and she already had a relationship with his children or his child. I'm not sure if he has one child or more than one child, but at any rate, the Khalfani decided to give her another chance to get it right. So instead of opting to look at what he had with looking at the possibilities of what he had with Adriana, he decided to go with what he knew, and that was the old girlfriend because of his children. So the ghost got ghosted. Adriana got ghosted by Khalfani. Now, Uncle Tommy was asking her, so how do you feel about your decision to walk away from Rashid, who always had you as his number one, for Khalfani, who then ghosted you? So it was written all over her face. She didn't have to say a word. But she said, she did, that was the first thought out of her brain was, wow, I walked away from a sure thing. So in the middle of all of this, Rashid is going back over how he felt about Adriana, and she was so busy looking at in the eyes of Khalfani, who had ghosted her, but just showed up with her for the reunion, that she missed all that Rashid had to say to her. And that speaks volumes about really what's important. Uncle Tommy kept saying how he noticed how she was more interested in the physical being of Khalfani than actually looking for who Khalfani was. Maybe she would have found out that he was not the best person for her. Anyway, again, Denise was liking what she was hearing, but that didn't keep Denise from getting called out on her calling Rashid a light-skinned frat boy narcissist, or at least what reminded her of a narcissist. So essentially, it was Adriana's time to get in at Denise, and it was Rashid's time to get in at Denise, and they just confronted her about how she misread Rashid, and how she was so confrontational about everything. So everybody was wanting for Denise to apologize for the way she was coming at Rashid without really knowing him. She refused to apologize. Essentially, she said she didn't really mean to make him feel any kind of way. She was just going off of her triggers and what that meant to her, the way he was acting. So essentially, that's what happened. And they had already talked it out before the show, after the season, before the show. So Denise was like, like, why are we revisiting this? But they were revisiting it so everybody else could view it. So the fact that Khalfani dropped Adriana off at the bus stop, and now she wasn't trying to necessarily appeal to Rashid, but Uncle Tommy wanted her to understand that you might have had a good thing, or you might have had somebody who was going to be there for you, and you decided to go with something else. And so who is it? Denise also had to face the fact of her lying on Joy. Remember when Joy left the show to be with her family because of the death of her sister? Denise had this grandiose speech about what Joy said. Joy wants y'all to find love, and she wants love to find y'all, and she wants us to come together. And it turns out that was a lie. So they had a little talk about that as well. We also found that, speaking of Joy, that Joy and Jay are not a couple. They are still trying to get to know each other, and that was to the pleasing. That was pleasing to Edwin and Winter because they are still obviously interested in. Edwin is still interested in Joy, maybe, and Winter is still interested in Jay, maybe, if they have a chance. So check this out. Even though Naya left talking about how she really didn't like Edwin and she really didn't like Chris, it turns out Edwin has gone on a few dates with Naya after they left the show. And he kind of took up for her and how she ended walking out of the show after getting kicked off. Chris came back, he held it together, but you could tell after looking at the video of how Naya was tonguing down Edwin in one scene when she just got finished talking to him, Chris, in another scene. Chris said that was shocking to him that a woman could be so duplicitous in how she presents herself. But he said he's still, willing to open himself up to love for the right person. And of course, Naya said, even though she's been out on a few dates with Edwin, she's still looking for that person to go half on a baby, pay everything, and put a ring on it. So she's still Naya. So essentially, Uncle Tommy had to lay down some paternal wisdom for most of the people there because a lot of the cast members, none of the cast members are together like they ended up or like you thought they would be. It turns out that, if the producers of the show are looking for the show to be something that really puts people together, long-term relationships, then they have failed. They get an F. But if they're looking to just make good TV, then they're probably happy with the results. It really turns out that once you look at it, it takes more to build a relationship than it takes to build a TV show. And let's go back because some of the people, the few cast members that initially got put off the show, like Sam. Sam was the first guy to get put off the show. Danielle, I think her name is, she was the first woman to get put off the show. So Sam, the guy, it turns out, is about to have a baby with his third baby's mother. So 3 babies in with 3 different women. And so Uncle Tommy had to tell him, now you got to be 3 fathers in 3 different places, and that is going to be hard. So you need to concentrate and focus on that, being a father. It turns out that Uncle Tommy asked Danny, how do you feel with most of the guys saying that you gave a homegirl vibe? They didn't come across as you didn't come across to them as being romantically inclined potential. It was like a homegirl potential vibe. And Danny said, any relationship, most worthwhile, substantial relationships start with the friendship foundation. And so she was okay with that coming across. And so I agree with her. I think that with any relationship, there has to be a common denominator of interest and personality traits. And so it speaks more to a man who doesn't appreciate a woman as a friend than it does about a woman who comes across as a friend and you're not interested in that. It just seems like you would want somebody to be likable and prove themselves or show themselves to be friendly and have the traits that you're looking for in somebody that you would want to spend your time with. And then you build on that. It seems like most guys these days are looking for cute face, big butt, little waist. It's just beyond that, though, there has to be more to the relationship. And so I agree with Danny when she said that. Other couples that are coming out of this season that you didn't expect that they got together after they got kicked off is Shay the chef, the one who was so loud and obnoxious and is a heavy drinker, and probably that's why she can't find a man. Well, it turns out she found Raymond, the 52-year-old with the 5 kids that got booted off earlier in the show. They are now a couple. Okay, so they're a couple, and then you've got David and Alex, they're a couple, and then you've got Joy and Jay, they're still working on it. You got Edwin and Naya, okay, and then you've got, I think that's about it. Everybody else kind of talked about how they had grown from being on the show and being going through the process. So hopefully they are better for having done it. But like I said, if you initially were on there to find love, and you didn't, was it a waste of time? Who's to say? But at any rate, I think the producers of the show have some explaining to do. They have some research to do so they can find better compatible castmates so they can end up in the end being able to walk away and say, we have built something that we want to continue off the show. So that's it. The season is over, and we'll see what happens next season, where they're going to be, and what type of contestants there are. But I'll tell you this, producers, if you're listening, if you come my way, then I certainly would consider applying to be on the show. Wouldn't that be neat? So we'll see. To find out more about the things that I care about, though, you can go to the written version of my journal. It's at eurweb.com. Thanks and have a super day.